Welcome back to another episode of EVTV. My name is Sam.
And I'm Adriana.
Many people are wondering about the changes made to the SAT this year. For more information, we go to Zoe and Zosha.
Every year, students around the country take standardized tests. Over the years, Colorado students have taken PARCC, CMAS, the PSAT, and the notorious SAT. The SAT has become a rite of passage for graduating high school and applying to colleges. Eagle Valley students took this test before spring break a couple of weeks ago. The SAT was first introduced in 1926. It was inspired by IQ tests that were used to evaluate the intelligence of recruits to the U.S. Army. Colleges started adopting it in 1926 to 1983. It became more widespread in the later 1900s when the College Board made it an admissions requirement. Since then, it has become a near-universal college admissions requirement. Due to the pandemic impacting the spring test window in 2020, many colleges and universities changed their SAT requirements for the 2021 admission cycle and waived their standardized test requirements.
This year, CSU was test optional, and what that meant was that if students had taken the test and they had that on file, they were welcome to share that in the admission process. However, they were not required for admission or for scholarships.
Now that colleges and universities that previously were not test optional have gone through an admissions cycle without standardized tests, they are in a position to determine whether these tests are necessary for the future or if they want to continue a test optional policy.
We hope to be able to still be test optional.
For state schools like CU Boulder and Colorado State, the decision is not up to the school itself.
That decision for being test optional for 2021, which we were, was at a political, state senate level and not a decision that we can make as our own university.
CSU, whether or not we will be able to be test optional in the future is all dependent on state legislature. So it's up to the state of Colorado and what they determine.
In past years, the SAT and many other standardized tests have been a very stressful event for students.
I was kind of stressed, mostly for me, because it was canceled, a bunch of times. I was supposed to take it in March, and that one got canceled, and I had to reschedule it 3 or 4 times. So I was worried, am I going to be able to take the test in the first place? But then a lot of schools started calling it, no SAT year, so it kind of reduced it a little bit.
This year was the first major disruption in the status quo of the SAT, and now schools, students, and officials have an opportunity to critically think about the place the exam will have in our society moving forward.
A lot of the schools that are out there are not only requiring college applications to have standardized test scores last year and this year, but they're looking at going forward, they're not going to be requiring them at all. And I think that's where we need to get to be, because I think, a lot of the sentiment with a lot of students is when applying to college, trying to have colleges and universities seeing them as a well-rounded learner and be able to see their full, high school experience and things that they got involved in, as opposed to being a name and a number.
Throughout the years, we have been really devaluing the use of test scores in our application review process. And we try to make it so if you submit an SAT or ACT score, it can only help you and won't hurt you.
Research shows that there are multiple biases towards the SAT. According to Forbes magazine, the results of the SAT often skew towards students in higher income houses and towards students of the white community. This has an impact on the test results because students in these categories typically are shown to have higher scores. Because of this, schools like CU Boulder, CSU, and CC have gone test optional or do not accept standardized tests at all.
A lot of flaws with standardized testing, and all of the data shows that it's really biased in favor of students, highly affluent students that have the ability to take the test more than one time.
Students and teachers all around the country have strong opinions about the SAT and its emphasis in high school and influence in the college admissions process.
I don't think it really adds anything positive to their future, to be quite honest. I think it, at this point in time when they're looking at being faced with standardized tests in high school, I think it's something else that we use that students are more competitive with each other. It adds stress. It's something that they take the time to prepare for and to work on, and they understand that it impacts their future, but in the long run, they don't get any feedback on it. Like, nobody's ever telling them how this is making them better or smarter. It's one of those, additional hurdles sometimes that we have to jump through in life to be able to get to, and where we want to be. And I think a lot of times when we look at standardized testing, I try to address it with my students that see it as a hurdle and understand that this is something that you have to jump over to get to where you want to go to. Because, in life, there's no such thing as professional test takers. And unfortunately, I think a lot of times with the SATs and the ACT, it measures how good of a test taker you are. If you've learned the strategies and the skills for it, how good of, how much have you practiced the skills necessary to do well on this test, not have you truly been an immersive learner through your high school experience.
Local band Trees Don't Move has been getting a lot of attention recently. To learn more about this group, we go to Otto and Langston.
Trees Don't Move is a local band made up of high schoolers from Eagle Valley High School. They have been performing at local Eagle restaurants for 2 years now, their name being unique to the valley.
We played down at Seven Hermits for New Year's, and they only told us 3 days before, and that was our first big gig, and we had a big mosh pit going on, and everyone was jumping around and having a good time.
That was probably our first. We played at a talent show before we got Ben as a singer, and that was in it was Eagle. I can't remember the name of it. July 4th parade. I know they have a talent show, but we played it, and the band that was going to play after the talent show didn't show up, so we got to play 3 more songs before the band even got there. So that was our first real kind of gig experience. We played a gig it was New Year's Eve before all the pandemic stuff started. We played it at Seven Hermits it was a 3-hour gig, and that was definitely a good one.
They've had many ups and downs, not only as a band, but as solo artists too.
COVID's been pretty hard. We haven't really been able to play many gigs. We've gotten lots of time to practice, but when you're not really practicing for anything, it can get a little hard.
We had a gig back, I think it was August or September of last year, and we finished Stray Cat Strut. It was the very last note, and my E string, which is the thickest string on the bass, 100 gauge, it snapped, the very, very final note, and I just stared at everyone, and it twanged. And we had to wait a whole 15 minutes for me to go grab another bass and bring it back to finish the show. That was just so funny.
The pandemic, we got slowed down quite a bit, but staying together as a group and writing some music because of it, we're doing really well.
They draw from many musicians and role models as inspiration for their music.
Lately, I guess through quarantine, I played a lot of Primus. Les Claypool's one of my favorite basses ever.
I really like Green Day. They do a lot of cool stuff. And I would say I listen to a lot of Miles Davis.
Well, obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger. You gotta love Arnold Schwarzenegger. Even if you gotta love him. He's just an absolute madman.
My biggest musical influences would be some older bands. I really like The Who, Pink Floyd, but also some new bands like the White Stripes and the Strokes.
Even though the band has creative differences, they will always share a love and passion for music.
Everybody wants to play their own thing, and we've kind of just got to come together and just join up and just rock out. But other than that, we've kind of been sailing smoothly.
If you like music and someone around you likes music too, then get together, see if you can make something new.
I think one thing, I always look to music for to help me get through certain things. And it always helps me cool down, and when I'm stressed out, I always go and play music.
fights are like in this.
Make sure to support your local artists. This has been Otto and Langston.
Thanks for watching this episode of EVTV.